Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Profits of IT. I'm Jim Punzenberger, your host, and the creator of the Managed Prospecting System at managedprospectingsystem.com. We help IT owners turn real experience into real pipeline, and we're the only IT marketing agency that lets you write your own guarantee for us. I'm excited to be joined by Mark and Raymond today. They are the I4JM, an independent association for journey management industry. Guys, why don't you say hi to the audience and take a quick moment to tell us a little bit more about yourselves and the organization.
For sure. Thank you, Jim. I'm very pleased to be here. My name's Mark Smith, based in Boston, Massachusetts. Very, very cold this morning here. Yeah, Ray and I established the Institute for Journey Management about 9 months ago as an independent, not-for-profit association for the industry of journey management, which is the industry that helps organizations do better and better engagement and provide better and better experience for their customers. And journey management is a suite of technologies that get used to do that. It's a fairly new domain, and there's a lot of different technology companies that are active in that domain, but no overall body that kind of represents all of them. And that's what Ray and I created with the Institute, was a single place that can set standards, create standard definitions for terms in the industry, create ways of collaboration across the industry, but perhaps most importantly, provide a very rich body of content and information and training and methodology guides for practitioners. So for business people who want to understand what can journey management help with in my organization and what value can it deliver. Both Ray and I have a background in the journey industry and in the technology industry. Mine goes back about 30 years or so, when I set up an analytics startup in Scotland, focused on customer behavior. That brought me to the States about 25 years ago, when I got into that company. Actually got acquired by an interaction management company, and we merged the two things together. That connection of high-end analytics to understand the behavior of customers, and then interaction management to actually communicate with them in the right way, that became then what's called now journey management, to guide a customer down the journey. And I've been in that space for probably 15 years. Successfully sold my company, which was called Kitewheel, and so now moved into kind of this role with the Institute, helping the industry as a whole. Ray, over to you, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. So I always like introducing myself with the interesting fact. I'm South African. I'm actually in South Africa right now. Lived in the States since 1996. But every time we come to South Africa, we go on a safari. And we generally go, if you look on the map, we go to the northeastern part of the country, which is called the Kruger Park, Sabi Sands, beautiful places. You see the big five nearly every day. And we were supposed to leave last week, and there was like a monsoon rain, and lodges were washed away, bridges were washed away. Unfortunately, some animals were washed away. So at the last minute, we diverted to Botswana, which is a little bit more trains, planes, and automobiles. But we got there, and I think, Mark, you saw some of the amazing pictures, some of the best sightings I've seen in my life. So obviously, that's one of my passions, between golf and safari. I've done more than 50 safaris. And then third in line, obviously, after my wife, comes customer journey management, which I have a love and philosophy for. I retired in 2024 November from Qualtrics as a distinguished excellent scientist. Prior to that, I was kind of one of the co-founders of a company called Thunderhead that was sold to Medallia. When I retired, Mark and I competed tremendously without knowing each other. And it was maybe for the better that we got to know each other after we didn't compete anymore. Otherwise, we might have been arch enemies versus really good friends.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that drove me was the confusion in the marketplace around the terms of customer journey management, the lack of education and knowledge around it across the industry. And I think, therefore, the institute sounded like a good way to bring independent, an independent body that hopefully creates global adopted and accepted standards and definitions of customer journey management. We created something called the Journey-Led Value Management Framework that we're promoting. We have a website called I4JM.org. Invite everybody to go on there. Some really, really good information. And we'll be very soon be publishing, since this is an IT podcast, what is the value and role of IT organizations within making sure that customer journey management as a philosophy and practice can bring the value that can to organizations. But it's great. It's also focused on what is the role of HR in terms of employing the right people with the right skills that doesn't work within silos, but understands what customers want across the journey end to end. How do sales, marketing, service, HR, loyalty, IT, all of them work together cohesively to ensure that everything from the company's perspective is focused on better outcomes and better experiences. And just the last one, a little bit promotion for me. I've published 2 books in the last 4 months. The Journey to Customer Obsession. The one is focused on strategy, and the one is focused on operationalization. I just published the third one yesterday, which is a shortened version of the first one, which is 100 pages, more an executive guide to customer journey obsession. And also all of that information in those books are also duplicated and replicated in the content we have on the Institute for Journey Management website. So thanks. Over to you, Jim.
So, guys, here at Profits of IT, we like to hear about truth bombs or big misconceptions in your industry. And so I'll ask you guys, what would you say is the biggest misconception you see in when it comes to customer journeys and I guess more specifically customer journeys when it related to IT companies?
I mean, I think the biggest misconception is like maybe what I said, what is a journey? There's so many different definitions of what journeys are. And I think that's one of the things that we are trying to focus on in terms of what is a common definition. So there's a globally accepted standard, like Pegasystems only become very, very valuable as a company when they wrote the definition of business process management. And we are trying to find we can write the definition of customer journey management, which even the Forresters and the Gartners of the world can support. But also at the same time is truly the abuse of, I think, some traditional marketing campaign solutions that have translated their terminology to be journey oriented while they're not really journeys, because a campaign is a managed customer journey. The journey analytics, journey orchestration as part of customer journey management is the customer managed journey. So that is kind of a big thing where we're trying to drive to make sure that organizations should enable journeys that are at the behest of the customer rather than driven forcefully by the brand.
Yeah. And, Jim, I think this is a big opportunity for IT departments, right? The big challenge and what Ray's just been talking about there, and this confusion around what a journey really is, and a set of often quite large vendors who try and exploit that word for something quite narrow that they do, typically marketing technology. Marketing technology is always picking up the latest buzz phrases and the buzzwords and aligning with them. and Journey is just the latest one of those. But the truth is, the journey spans across the whole business, and of course, so does IT. IT supports the whole business. IT needs to provide systems that go from sure marketing and sales, but also all the way through customer support and customer management, customer service. And so IT have this central role that connects all things together. And it's their responsibility to pull together the right data that supports all of those different parts of the business. Perhaps there'll be a group working on a single source of truth around the customer, a CDP or a customer database. And so I think IT have a real good fit with being able to also connect the different pieces of the organization around the customer in terms of the journey, not just the customer data. And so there's a good alignment there for this, for the role of IT to support an across the business view of the customer.
Yeah, and I also think that IT can
Excuse
play
me.
a big role. Like you mentioned the word CDP. You mentioned earlier, Mark, interaction management. He's to make sure that the data that is the oil today of companies that is being recorded through IT systems becomes available in a usable manner to journey management solutions. So that the insights you have about your customers can truly be omni-channel, always on. Because when you look at, especially lately with AI and chatbots, the roles that IT can play in terms of enabling continuous conversations that needs to be tracked in the context of the journey, so you can make sense of those conversations, not as individual touch point, but across the whole journey. I think that's for us where I think, unfortunately, there's been a lot of kind of like the marketing solutions. People bought marketing solutions and had marketing technologies, which kind of we're trying to be independent of IT, and I think a lot of the CGM initiatives were done like that versus, it being a corporate buy. And obviously the IT eventually, as the owner that operates that solution technologically and has to ensure, scalability and security and compliance and all of those things, which are key elements of engaging with customer data, has been overlooked.
Yeah. Yeah.
So guys, shifting gears here a moment, I find that successful people usually have what I call a superpower in that they excel at some specific things very well. And so my curiosity is, what do you consider as your superpower? And how could others that maybe would want to develop that superpower, if you have any tips on making whatever your superpower is their superpower?
You go first this time, Mark.
Should I go first? Okay.
I'm glad to
Okay.
go. I mean, but go ahead, Mark.
So I think maybe I'll say two things. I got a kind of a technical one, sort of, on the technical side of work. I would say so. I'm a statistician. I got a PhD in statistics. Those people often don't communicate very well, and there's the old joke about how do you know at a party. An extroverted statistician is one that looks at your shoes during the conversation rather than looking at their own shoes during a conversation at a cocktail party. But my superpower is that I'm able to translate that kind of advanced analytic stuff into business terms. And that's kind of what I've built my career on, is being able to see the business value, not just the statistical value. And relay how this advanced analytics, which of course is everywhere today with AI, how that stuff helps businesses. And so that ability to translate, I think, is perhaps my sort of technical superpower. Then on a more sort of personal level, but also applied to business, I think team building is a bit of a superpower of mine in terms of being able to tell a story that gets people on board and get a lot of people on the same train as a team. I'm a huge believer in teamwork generating success. And it's a team approach, even in sales, where sales is terribly full of lone wolf individuals. In this day and age, team selling tends to be much more successful. So I'm a big team guy. So those are my two things. Over to you, Ray.
Yeah, I think the one for me is the willingness to believe I don't know everything, and I can always learn something from other people, but also I have a major appetite, maybe too much, and Mark is maybe you can see that, is for research. Even before AI, even before that, I don't have 7 degrees like other people do, a doctorate. um, I honestly don't even have a degree. Mark, you might not even have known that. Unfortunately, my wife passed in the final year, and I never decided to complete it. But even till today, I read on average 1,500 pages of white papers and articles per month. That's my appetite, and I think what's great about it, it has broadened my knowledge because I read about different topics. I'm not focused and isolated on a very specific topic. And then I think, Mark, like you, philosophically, the second one is don't sweat the small stuff. Know what you're focused on, know what you're trying to achieve, you know, um, focus on the things trying to achieve, and don't waste time on the small things. That's what's worked for me, and I think it's been helpful. So
That's some interesting takes on superpowers, guys. Very fascinating. And so, what has you guys excited at I4JM?
I think just it's interesting. We had a kind of a first possible founders meeting in Amsterdam in March timeframe, March, April.
Yeah, last year. Yeah.
And we had 10 vendors in the room that traditionally were very competitive, that were like very cautious. You kind of like, are we going to say things that is going to give away some of the secret sauce that we have competing against other companies? There was a distrust coming into the room. And then we had a subsequent meeting in London in June, and it totally changed. For that was exciting for me, is that people suddenly see, let's remove our personal concern about competing. We all believe in the industry, and we all believe the institute could be a vehicle to drive the agenda forward for not just us, for everybody, as vendors, as service providers, as users, as analysts. That's what drove me to see how quickly the people changed. And then obviously, slowly but surely, is how our LinkedIn community is growing, how people are starting to sign on and comment and participate. And I look forward to, by the end of 2026, where we've massively increased our membership, start looking at events and stuff like that. So very excited about to see the potential of where it can go, but primarily down to being an independent body that's not driven by a specific vendor or group of vendors, because there's no annual fee for people to pay as vendors. They had a one-time fee, and that's it. So there's not suddenly, because you pay me more next year, like unfortunately some of the analysts do, I'm going to spend more time with you. We are totally independent, and I think the founding members all appreciate that. So
yeah, great point, Ray. And so what I would add, Jim, is I'm excited about our timing, right? And we suspected this, Ray and I suspected that it's an early stage market, but its time has kind of come, and I think we're starting to see that. If you just look at the Google Trends data on searches for journey management, kind of exploded midway through last year. It's like running at sort of 50 times the previous rate over the last couple of years. So there's a lot more kind of interest specifically in journey management, and that you see that also in the IT analyst world. So, again, I think your audience will be interested to know that as is typically the case, Forrester research have been covering journey technology for quite a few years. But just this week, or maybe next week, is the kickoff of the Gartner, a Magic Quadrant for journey analytics and journey orchestration. The first time move by them to actually have a Magic Quadrant for this industry. Ray and I did a call with one of the other very large analyst firms a couple of weeks ago. They're also getting into this space, and they're gonna, later this year, will be publishing their first kind of market assessment for journey analytics and journey management. We actually have there's another one of the Indian-based research firms that's also starting to cover the space and has just put their survey out. So there's definitely a kind of momentum building, and those IT analyst organizations are starting to cover this space, which shows that it's kind of becoming a real thing. So I think that's exciting, that our timing is kind of right, that more and more organizations are looking for how journeys can help them. So.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing on that is the role that AI has played in this excitement is how much time companies have spent on journey mapping. Who do I talk to? What are the journey maps? What are competitive? And when you start looking at some of the LLMs and Gen AI stuff, how quickly people can very quickly come up with 80%, journey maps. But now the question is, what do we do with that? And that's kind of where the broader customer journey management philosophy becomes a question to these people. So.
Got it. So if somebody would want to find out more about you guys, what would be a great way to do that?
Yeah, we have a website, but it's actually a community platform. It's a networking platform, and you can find it at I4JM. The 4 is a number, so it's I4JM, Institute for Journey Management, I4JM.org, because we're a not-for-profit. So you go there, you can register, you can see first level of all of our content and resource guides and information and publications. So that's definitely the best way to get started.
So check out I4JM.org. And thank you guys for your time today. Thank you for sharing.
Pleasure. Thank you, Jim.
And if you're an IT executive of a IT services company and looking to turn and looking for constant conversations and qualified demand for your business, check out managedprospectingsystem.com. And until next time, stay hydrated and caffeinated. Bye for now.
Thank you.